The smell hit me before anything else did. A sharp, metallic tension in the air, the kind that made the small hairs on my arms stand up. My professor was still talking about orbital mechanics, his 4 eyes blinking slowly at the board, but I was no longer listening. Something outside that door was wrong, and my body knew it before my mind caught up. I glanced at the corridor window. 2 figures stood there, dressed like transfer students, blending in just enough to fool anyone who had never needed to survive anything harder than a bad exam. But I was not from a soft world. I was from Earth, and Earth does not raise people who miss things like this. My name is Elena Brooks, and I am the only human in this entire academy. The rest of my classmates were Veldari, Sinuvians, a few Zoth from the outer ring worlds, all bright, all brilliant in their own fields, and all completely unfamiliar with the specific kind of quiet that comes right before danger. Their planets were gentle. Their bodies were built for comfort, not survival. Mine was not. I kept packing my bag slowly, like nothing was happening, while my heartbeat settled into a steady, controlled rhythm. Fear was there, somewhere underneath, but it was small and manageable, tucked into a corner of my mind, the way you tuck away a jacket you might need later. My hands did not shake, my breathing did not change. This was simply how I had been trained to exist, without even trying. The professor dismissed the class, and one by one my alien classmates filed toward the door, chatting, laughing, completely unaware. I moved last, my bag over one shoulder, my eyes already measuring distance, angles, exits. The 2 figures outside straightened as I approached. They were good, professionally good, by galactic standards, clean posture, hidden weapons, calm faces. But galactic standards were built around soft worlds, around people who flinched at loud noises and fainted at the sight of blood. They were not built around someone like me. I stepped into the corridor. The taller one spoke first, his voice smooth, almost friendly. He said my name and asked me to come quietly, that this did not need to be difficult. I recognized the accent, a negotiator's tone, meant to calm a frightened target before subduing them. I almost laughed, not out loud, but somewhere inside, in that same calm corner where my fear lived. Instead of answering, I studied them. The shorter one had a weapon holstered at his hip, hidden under a long coat, but not hidden well enough. The taller one carried something in his sleeve, a small device that hummed faintly, a suppressor field meant to block noise and alert signals. They had planned this. Someone had paid for this. Someone wanted me gone. I did not know who yet, but I intended to find out. The corridor behind me was empty now, my classmates long gone toward the courtyard, unaware that anything unusual was happening. That was good. Fewer people meant fewer complications. I took a slow breath and let my shoulders relax, the picture of someone giving up. The taller one stepped closer, confident, already reaching toward my arm. That was his mistake. My reflexes were not something I trained consciously. They were something written into me by a planet that demanded constant awareness, quick decisions, and immediate reaction, long before I ever set foot on a spaceship. I moved before he even realized I had moved, shifting my weight, redirecting his grip, turning his own momentum against him. He stumbled forward, off balance, and I used that half-second to step past him toward the shorter one. The shorter one was already reaching for his weapon, but I was faster, not because I was inhumanly strong, but because my instincts did not hesitate the way theirs did. Where they calculated risk, I simply acted. I caught his wrist, twisted it just enough to make him drop what he was holding, and pushed him back into the wall with controlled, precise force. Nothing broken, nothing permanent, just enough to remove him from the situation. Behind me, the taller one had recovered and lunged again, this time more carefully. I turned to face him, and for a moment our eyes met. His widened slightly, and I recognized that look. It was not the look of someone facing an equal opponent. It was the look of someone realizing, for the very first time, that the thing standing in front of him was not what he expected. He had trained to subdue frightened prey. He was not prepared for someone who did not feel fear the way his targets usually did. I stepped into his reach instead of away from it, closing the distance he wanted to keep, and redirected his strike harmlessly past my shoulder. My palm met his chest, firm and controlled, sending him back a step, enough to break his balance without causing real harm. He hit the wall, gasping, more startled than hurt. Around us, the emergency lights blinked on, some automatic system finally registering the disturbance. I heard footsteps rushing from further down the hall, Academy security, alerted late, as always. I straightened my jacket, glanced down at both men now sitting against the wall, dazed but breathing fine, no real injuries beyond bruised pride, and let out a slow breath. The corridor was silent except for their groans, and the distant hum of the suppressor device, now sparking uselessly on the floor, exposed and useless without their attention on it. I crouched down and picked it up, examining it for a moment. Interesting design, expensive too. Someone had spent real resources on this attempt. Security arrived moments later, 4 Sinuvian officers in dark uniforms, weapons raised, eyes wide with alarm as they took in the scene. 2 intruders on the ground, 1 human standing calmly between them, adjusting her bag strap like she had just finished a light workout. Their leader, an officer named Talon Kor, stared at me for a long moment before speaking. His voice came out uneven, still processing what he was seeing. He asked if I was all right. I told him I was fine, and gestured toward the 2 men, suggesting they might want medical attention more than I did. My tone was calm, almost bored, though inside, my mind was already working through the pieces. Who sent them? Why now? What they wanted badly enough to risk an attack inside Academy grounds, one of the most heavily monitored places in this entire system. Talon ordered his team to secure the 2 attackers, then turned back to me, studying my face like he was trying to solve a puzzle that made no logical sense. He asked how I had done that, so calmly, so quickly, without a weapon, without even raising my voice. I thought about how to answer that honestly, without sounding arrogant, without diminishing what had just happened, but also without pretending it had been difficult, because it truly had not. I told him that where I came from, danger did not send a warning first. It did not wait politely at your door. It simply arrived, and you either learned to react instantly, or you did not survive long enough to learn anything at all. My planet raised people to move before fear could stop them, to act while still afraid, because hesitation on Earth had never been a luxury we could afford. Talon absorbed that, his 4 eyes blinking slowly, clearly trying to imagine a childhood built around constant vigilance instead of comfort. By then, a small crowd had gathered at the end of the hallway, my classmates among them, drawn back by the commotion. My friend Priya Anwar, one of the few other humans on this station, though not enrolled at the academy, pushed through the crowd, her expression somewhere between relief and disbelief. She reached me first, gripping my shoulder, asking if I was hurt anywhere. I told her I was fine, genuinely fine, and her disbelief slowly melted into something closer to exasperation, the kind reserved for someone who treats near danger like a minor inconvenience. Behind her, my Veldari classmate, a soft-spoken student named Ilan Vesh, stared at the scene with wide, uncertain eyes. She asked, quietly, how I had stayed so calm the entire time, how my hands had not even trembled once. I considered the question carefully before answering. The truth was simple, though it never sounded simple to anyone who had not lived it. On Earth, fear existed, constantly, but it never had the luxury of paralyzing you. You learned early that panic got you hurt faster than danger itself ever could. So instead, fear became fuel, folded into focus, into movement, into calm, precise action. It was not that I felt nothing, it was that feeling everything had never once stopped me from doing what needed to be done. Ilan considered this for a long moment, then admitted quietly that she could not imagine growing up that way. Her voice held no judgment, only a kind of quiet awe. I told her that was exactly the point. Most worlds did not need to imagine it, because most worlds were kind enough to let their people grow up soft. Mine simply was not one of them. Academy officials arrived shortly after, along with a small investigation team, questioning witnesses, examining the confiscated device, taking statements from security. I answered their questions clearly, calmly, providing every detail I remembered, the timing, the equipment, the way the two men had positioned themselves before I even stepped into the corridor. An investigator named Doran Reyes, a broad-shouldered man with sharp eyes, reviewed my statement twice before looking up at me directly. He asked if I had any idea who might want me targeted like this. I did not. Not with certainty, though a few possibilities already sat quietly in the back of my mind, tied to research I had been conducting, connections I had made. Questions I had asked in places some people clearly preferred remained unquestioned. I told him I would think on it carefully and share anything useful once I was certain, rather than offering guesses that might send this investigation in the wrong direction. He nodded, satisfied for now, and moved on to speak with the two attackers, who by then were fully conscious, thoroughly humbled, and remarkably cooperative. As the corridor slowly emptied, security escorting the attackers away, officials gathering their notes, my classmates finally dispersing toward their next classes, still whispering among themselves, Priya remained beside me, arms crossed, studying my face with quiet concern. She asked if this kind of thing happened often back home. I told her honestly that it happened often enough that no one back home would have called this morning particularly unusual. A little inconvenient, certainly. Unusual? No. She shook her head slowly, somewhere between amusement and disbelief, before finally letting a small laugh escape. I looked back down the now empty corridor, the emergency light still blinking faintly overhead, and felt something settle quietly inside me. Not triumph exactly, but simple, steady certainty. Whoever had sent those two men would try again, more carefully next time, better prepared, better funded. That was fine. I would be ready then too, exactly as I was ready now. Because that was the entire difference between my world and every other world represented in this academy. Their people learned to avoid danger. My people learned to walk directly through it, calmly, deliberately, without ever losing themselves along the way. And as I finally turned to walk toward my next class, my footsteps steady, my breathing even, I found myself almost looking forward to whatever came next.